Welcome to Hari's Hobbies, the channel where we discuss the latest tech news and delve into newest tech products. So today, we're taking a look at which GPU you should buy for editing and gaming after the mining boom. But before we delve into that, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you guys would like to stay updated with the latest tech news related to gaming and PCs. First of all, in this video, I'm not going to be talking about Nvidia's new 1100 series and AMD's new Navi series. And if you guys are interested in the details of those new GPUs, then make sure to check out my dedicated videos on them. This video is for people who are set on buying a GPU right now, but are having trouble deciding which GPU is best for them and which will best suit their needs. Also, before buying any of these GPUs, I really recommend that you guys wait a couple of days and look for any deals because these GPUs are still dropping in price and there are many unexpected deals that pop up all the time for these GPUs, so really make sure to keep an eye out for those deals before you buy one of these. So obviously, when buying a GPU, there are three things to consider. How much does the GPU cost? What performance will it give you? And how long will it last? So starting off, the GTX 1050, 1050 Ti, the RX 560, and the RX 570. I wouldn't recommend that you guys buy any of those cards because all those cards are going to be outdated very soon and they're the entry level cards for both graphics card series, and so it doesn't really make sense to buy an entry level almost outdated card right now. So really, you should only buy those cards if you're on a very strict budget. But otherwise, you should wait and save some more money or just spend some extra cash right now and go for a 1060 or RX 580 because that really will be worth the extra money. So with that out of the way, if you guys are looking for a perfect value card that can handle all 1080p games at 60 frames per second at ultra settings, then the best cards for you are the GTX 1060 and the RX 580. Both these cards have two variants within them which have differing VRAM sizes. However, all four of these options are viable and reasonable. With the 3GB 1060 card and the 4GB 580 card, you will be able to get solid 60 frames per second 1080p ultra gaming for the next 2 to 3 years. However, after that, you will probably have to dial it down to high on some games if you want to maintain that 60 frames per second. And as for the 6GB 1060 and the 8GB 580, those cards will be able to handle 1080p at 60 frames per second with ultra settings for the next 3 to 4 years. But after that, you will have to dial it down just like the other cards to high. However, despite that small drawback, the 1060 and 580 are still really good 1080p graphics cards and are really good if you want a graphics card for the next 3 years or even if you want to keep it longer for 5 years, as long as you're okay with dialing down the graphics a little bit. But as for value for the money, these two cards are probably the best you're gonna get. Next up, if you want a graphics card that can handle 1080p gaming with no problem at 60 frames per second at ultra for the next 5 years, or a graphics card that can handle 1440p or 1080p ultra-wide gaming for the next 3 years before you have to dial it down, then the best graphics card for you is the GTX 1070. Right now, this graphics card can easily handle 1080p games and will be able to handle 1080p games all the way for at least 5 years in the future. So if you want a 1440p/1080p ultra-wide gaming graphics card or a future-proof 1080p graphics card, then the GTX 1070 is the best GPU for you. If you want a graphics card for triple monitor 1080p gaming, 1440p ultra-wide gaming, or a good 4K gaming graphics card, then the GTX 1080 is your best bet. Finally, if you want a graphics card that is really pretty much overkill right now, and it'll be very strong for the next 5 years or even more, then the GTX 1080 Ti may be worth considering. But for most of you guys, this is really overkill and very unnecessary. But if you want to get the best performance available, then this is the card for you. As for SLI, just don't do it. And as for Vega, well, Nvidia's offerings for that range of graphics cards is just so much better, so just don't get Vega. Next up, which GPU should you get for editing? First of all, before we go any further, I want to make it really clear that the CPU is the main component of video editing and the GPU won't really make much of a difference. So I would never recommend that you guys sacrifice the CPU level in order to be able to afford a better GPU. While GPUs do assist in editing, CPUs really do most of the work, so I really recommend that you guys save most of your budget for the CPU. Here, the GTX 1050 and the 1050 Ti are actually pretty good options because the CPU does most of the work. And as a result, these cards are actually very viable options for video editing. So, what should you look out for when buying a GPU for video editing? First of all, don't make your GPU purchase based on the VRAM that a GPU has, because while VRAM is really good for things such as 3D modeling, VRAM doesn't really affect video editing very much, so don't make your decision based off of that. Really, the best way to gauge the video editing power of a graphics card is by looking at its cores, which is measured in CUDA cores for NVIDIA. What about AMD, you ask? Well, unfortunately, NVIDIA GPUs are just so much more optimized for video editing softwares like Premiere Pro and After Effects, so there really is no reason to buy an AMD GPU for video editing. So, when buying a GPU for video editing, stick to NVIDIA, don't make your decision based on VRAM, and make sure to look at the CUDA cores because that is what will translate into real world performance as for video editing. So, which graphics card should you get for video editing? Well, in my opinion, there are 4 tiers that all video editors fall into, and that is what will determine which graphics card is best for you. Again, I really recommend that you guys buy the best CPU that you can and at least 8GB of DDR4 RAM, preferably 16GB, before you make any decisions of your GPU. With that being said, if you're just a casual video editor, or even if you're serious but you don't edit too often, then I really recommend the GTX 1050 or 1050 Ti because that is really all you need. If you're a bit more serious and you would like to keep your GPU for a longer time, then I recommend that you guys get the GTX 1060 because it is much better for the long term and it does have a decent performance upgrade over the GTX 1050 and 1050 Ti as for video editing. Finally, if you're very serious about your editing, like for example you make money off what you do, then you may want to consider the GTX 1070 because that will last a very long time and it will make your life during that period slightly better. But again, really, the GTX 1060 is really all you need. Finally, if you want to go over the top, then you may want to consider the GTX 1080 or 1080 Ti, but when you look at it from a performance standpoint on video editing, the 1060, 1070, 1080, and 1080 Ti all have performance that is very similar and it's really quite negotiable, and I don't think that it's worth the extra money that you would need to spend. So as a result, for most people, I recommend that they just get a GTX 1060 because that will last a solid 5 years or even more and deliver really good performance, and the performance difference between that and the cards above that is very small and it really wouldn't make that much of a difference. If you are super serious and really care about longevity, then you may want to go for the GTX 1070, but really I do think that is a bit overkill and I would really just recommend sticking to the GTX 1060. So that's who I think should buy each level of graphics card as for editing and gaming. So do you guys agree with my judgment? Or do you think that the GTX 1080 Ti is a must if you want to get into gaming, or that a GPU is not even necessary for video editing? Make sure to comment down below what you guys think because I do read all my comments and I'm curious as to what you guys think, so make sure to post your thoughts. Also, if you guys like this video, then make sure to drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you guys would like to see more videos just like this one. But until next time, bye.